Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and today's episode we're joined by a very special guest, current APHL player with the Kalkaska Battlers, or he played with the Kalkaska Battlers last year, Justin DuPlantis. Justin is he's a forward and he's also a goalie as well. So he has that dynamic duo with what he can do in a game. But he also has a program for free inline hockey program in rural East Texas. So it's going to be fun to jump on and talk about that a little bit and your program there. But you've also played in the APHL as well. So I'm excited to get you on, and I'm excited that you're wanting to come on the podcast. You're the one who reached out to me, so I'm excited for that. So welcome to the show, Justin Duplantis.
Hey, Jack, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. When you texted me and said you wanted to come on, I was all about it to share your story and share your inline story as well. So like, but before we get into that, like how have you been? Like what's your summer been like so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's been crazy. Obviously, like you had mentioned before, I'm really big into the inline scene right now with our program that we run down here in East Texas. So inline, of course, is super heavy in the summer. So attended a NARCH regional qualifier tournament up in Oregon. Then we did a national at tours finals in St. Louis this year. Did a Echo tournament in Houston a couple weeks ago. So it's been pretty hectic. Been at my house, I think 9 days in the past like month and a half. So lots of travel, but it's been fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like how did you get into the inline scene, and like how has the inline gone for you, and like that transition from inline to ice hockey as well?
Yeah, so I actually grew up playing inline when I was a kid. I grew up in South Louisiana, and inline had gotten really big for a pretty short time. It was kind of a flash in the pan a little bit, and played in high school and was actually the Mercy backup goalie for the local East Coast team. The They had a cameraman that was the backup goalie, and he started getting older, and he said, "Hey, look, can you kind of take over this?" Um, so I took over being the emergency backup goalie for them for the Louisiana Ice Gators out there, and then started to kind of playing ice obviously before that. So started playing ice probably when I was 13, 14 years old. So started playing hockey about 9, and transitioned to ice at 13 or 14, and kind of played ice my whole life since then. Don't play inline and net. I only skated out in inline, and then we relocated to rural East Texas about 3 years ago, and we started a program out in this area for kids and adults, and made it completely free to the community. So we're doing an inline program here, kind of been growing slowly, but we are in a very small town, about 2,800 people. So do a lot of inline. I'm probably on the inlines, I don't know, 20 hours a week at this point.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, what really drove you into doing like a free inline program and really give back to like the small town that you're in, and just like the inline community as well?
Yeah, I think, we had talked about creating one in general. It was kind of my wife's idea. And I think what we decided was it was going to be hard to break into a community that has no hockey culture. It's rodeo, bass fishing, football. That's pretty much all that's out here. And the idea was, what can we do to bring hockey to the community? And we prayed about it and said, you know what, I think this is going to kind of be our ministry, where we're going to create this program, and make it completely free to the community. So we have donated gear that I've purchased. My wife and I have purchased skates and everything. So no one has to pay for anything. No registration fees, no equipment fees, no skates. We even have goalies that are completely outfitted with our gear. So it's like I said, it's been going really well. We've got about 60 or so kids and adults in the program right now from a very small town that has no hockey. It's been pretty great. We're playing out of a basketball court that's owned by the local ISD, so they've been generous enough to let us use their basketball court. It's quite hot. There's no AC in it, and we're in Texas, so we're regularly skating in 93 degrees, and of course, like, ice is such a pleasure to be on, especially after skating in that type of temperature. So.
Yeah, it makes you stronger when you're skating in 93-degree weather as well, and you can handle anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but like from like when you first started this to like where you are now, like how have you seen it grow and just how it's changed over the course of time?
Yeah, I think you know, it's been interesting. It's been a roller coaster, right? Like when I was a kid, inline was huge. And then it fell off, and I think it's coming back again. I think especially with guys like Connor Bedard that have a pretty strong inline background, making it to the NHL. A lot of people talking about it. Nasher, of course, has really helped the inline scene as well. Guys like that are really big into inline have kind of helped. I think there's a push right now to try to get inline in the Summer Olympics. I think if that ever happened, I'm not sure what the reality of that is, but if that ever happened, I think it would really make it grow as well. But I think there's always been this misconception that inline's lesser than ice, and I don't think it's necessarily lesser. I think it's just different. It's a different game. It's a lot of fun. It's fast paced. There's no, of course, there's no icing and inline, so it makes it for a much faster paced game. It's a smaller rink. But yeah, it's like I said, it's a different game. You have these long, far swings from behind the other net for, kind of that's the way that you're breaking out of the zone is you have these cross rink passes and everything. So it's a lot of fun. My my two boys play as well. My youngest, he's 8. I've tried to get him into ice, and he's pretty reluctant. Been on ice a few times, but I think he's pretty dead set on being an inline player at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's cool to see how far the sport has grown because I really didn't even hear like I knew obviously what roller and inline was, but like COVID when that all happened, like it really like brought out a lot of like inline and like I feel like that's when it really started and hit its peak and just to keep going up and like I played roller a little bit like during the COVID times and all that so like I know exactly what you mean when how it's faster or like with no icing and everything like smaller rinks like it's a lot of fun and like it's obviously been like growing as well so that's huge.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, but like what are some of the noticeable differences that you usually see when you go from ice to inline?
Yeah, I think for me the hardest. So I'm on inline a lot more, obviously. Again, I skate out for both. I play net only for ice. Um, but for skating out, the biggest thing is the puck handling. You have to force it with inline. So there's a lot of forcing of the puck that doesn't slide as well as on ice. With ice, you can just kind of pop it in front of you, and it kind of does what you want it to do. With inline, you're having to force it. The biggest struggle I see with players coming from ice to inline though is the stopping. Ice is so easy, like you just put your foot
Yeah.
out there and you're stopping is no problem. But inline, it's a really forced move, and so it works in both directions, right? Like it's harder for ice players to learn how to stop an inline just because of the force that you have to put into it. I could tell them it's like taking a really sharp turn in ice, but just putting your foot out there a little bit harder. And then in for going the other direction, it's difficult for inline players to learn how to stop an ice because they're so used to forcing it. When they try to stop an ice, they're just flipping over
Yeah.
their skates because they're digging in way too hard. It's like, look, you just be gentle. You got to be much more gentle. So I think that's the biggest transition is puck handling, and then of course the weight of the puck is different. But puck handling and stopping were, I say, the two biggest difficulties people have in the transition.
Yeah, but like once you get like that transition period, like you're fine after that, and like it's once you finally notice that you don't have to dig in so much in the ice, and you have to dig in harder when you're going inline, like it'll work out eventually too.
Yeah, I think for it's funny because I'll have inline players will ask, they'll say, well, what's it like going to ice? Like, how hard is that going to be for me to transition? And then my first thing is always, have you ever snow skied before? And if they say yes, I'm like, it's pretty much like snow skiing. I
Yeah,
mean, the way that you slalom is the same way that you're going to turn in ice. The hockey stopping is really similar to as you do in snow skiing. Is ice hockey is pretty similar. I had never been snow skiing before until probably five or 6 years ago, and my wife brought me, and I said, well, let's see how this goes, and I picked it up with no problem just because it is so similar to kind of ice skating in the way that you're moving your body.
yeah, exactly. But like you've obviously played roller or inline a lot longer than ice, like you said. It's like what have been some of your favorite memories playing inline, especially growing up and coming into like where you are now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what was awesome. My dad was super young. He had me when he was 19. I'm an only child, and my dad was kind of more. more of like a brother than a dad in a lot of ways, and which was great. We bonded a lot in sports. My dad was a big soccer player, really talented soccer player. Probably could have played professionally, but had a kid at 19, so that didn't happen. But when I started playing hockey, he kind of jumped on as well and played. And so when I was 13, I started playing goalie for his adult team, and it was a really great experience. Built a bond with my dad, and us play together. He was a defenseman, so of course anyone slashed me, then they were gonna have hell to pay, But I think what was the greatest memory when I was probably 17, and the local ECHL team, one of the guys that was a mainstay there, Chris Valasevic, his brother Rob Valasevic was the captain for the Predators, but Chris was a big player for the Ice Gators for many years, and he was a professional inline player as well. He came in and he said, "Look, I want to create this travel team for the rink," and he was talking to the manager of the rink and said, we've got all the components, all the pieces of a really great team, but we don't have a good goalie. And he said the manager was like, "Well, why don't you ask Duplantis to play?" And he kind of laughed and he said, "Yeah, I wish." And he said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, I wish he was like, young enough to play. He'd be a great fit." He said, "Well, he's only 17." And so he was pretty shocked because I've been playing adult against him since I
Yeah.
was probably 14. I played lower level at 13. At 14, I started playing upper level adult. So he's like shocked. And so it was fun. We had a travel team for one season and kind of went just around regionally in the kind of the southeast area. But it was fun. I think being able to travel a little bit with inline really ignited my excitement for it. And then it kind of died out because I ended up going to ice. When I got back over here and started doing it again, it increased the excitement. I think I'm going to be playing at Winter Nationals this year for a 40 and over team. So this is my first year of eligibility coming up. So excited to kind of skate around with some higher level guys that are kind of closer to my age.
Yeah, that's awesome, especially like have him being shocked that you're still so young, even though you've been playing against him for a while, and just be able to go and travel regionally, like you said, and like that's what it's all about, is like just playing and then just traveling and just getting like these different experiences that you wouldn't get or that you
Absolutely.
get to have if you weren't playing the sport.
For sure. Totally agree.
Yeah, but what do you learn pl from playing roller, like throughout your times playing roller? Like what you learn to help like the community grow even further with inline, and just like as you like within yourself.
Yeah, I think for me, it's much more accessible, right? Ice is extremely expensive and very expensive down here in the Dallas area. There's been lots of articles that have been put out recently about the cost of playing in the Dallas region is some of the highest in the nation. And the other thing is we're really far from ice. So I'm 2 hours west of ice, 2 hours east of ice. So it's a pretty good drive to get to any type of ice. So the question is, how can we bring hockey to the community in a very low impact way? And that's through inline, right? As I stated before, we're playing in a basketball court. So it's great because anybody, you can kind of play anywhere. You can go in a driveway and play. You can go out in a tennis court and play. When I lived in New Orleans, I kind of started a little program out there, and that's what we started doing, playing in a tennis court. And now they've grown. Since I moved out, Ethan Gilbo took over and has grown into a huge inline program. And they compete in ice as well, but a very large inline program in New Orleans. And so I think that's for me, at least, is the accessibility and introduction to hockey. We had one player. We actually have three players that started in our program. One is relocated to Nashville and he's playing ice. He's made his varsity high school team, so that was a huge accomplishment for me to see a kid come from our program, work with us, relocate, and now is playing high school hockey. We've got another one that's relocated to Florida. He's playing hockey now in like the local rec league and doing quite well. And then we have a third one that's actually from our program that is now traveling into Dallas and playing ice. So it's neat to see that transition. We've made a relationship with East Texas Baptist University as well, where our kids are able to have a goal where they can say, look, I'm coming here not just to play inline, but if I want to transition to ice, not only do I have an outlet to play ice in Shreveport or Dallas, but I have an outlet to go and play for a college, for a university at a D2 or D3 program. They have both D2 and D3 teams over there. And so building that relationship with a program where the kids can see that it's not just I'm playing in a school gym, but I have a future potentially in hockey has been, I think, a wide opening opportunity for these kids. My son, like I said, he's 8. He's a good, strong player. He played at Tours Nationals this year, and I think people are pretty surprised when they see that we play out of a basketball gym, and yet we've got some pretty strong talent coming out.
Yeah, that's huge that like these kids and everything have like a goal that they can achieve with the college and just any goals in general, like when going in the program. Like I think that's big and it really helps like kids like really like focus in and just be like and just have a create a goal and like do everything you can every day to achieve that goal.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, that's kind of, I joking with my wife and say, I'm kind of going through a midlife crisis right now, right? I started playing kind of more competitive hockey just a few years ago. I played in Israel for a league out there in the summer of 22, right before we moved here. And then when we got here, I kind of started, potentially like looking around a little bit, and was supposed to be playing for Blue Water last season. Didn't work out. The team folded before our first game, but then got picked up by Kalkaska skating out. So got a few games in with them and had a good time. And looks like I'll be rejoining the APHL this season for a team out of New York. It's brand new, Thousand Island Raiders, playing net though, so a little different position, but that's more of my comfort zone and my home. It is pretty entertaining for people though when they find out that I've played, at a decently high level, both as a defenseman as well as
Yeah.
as a goalie. But goalie's definitely where my love is for sure. Playing the old school like Dominic Hasek, flopping on the back style. So I jokingly told our coach for Thousand Island, I said, look, worst case scenario, we'll entertain some fans for sure with my style. So
Hey, and can't complain about old school style, especially
yeah,
when
yeah.
you're bringing it into the modern day.
Yeah, playing with those old school V2 pads still. So, my good old Vaughn V2s. I have modern pads, but they're just not for me. I think I've just been so accustomed to playing with the old giant pillows that have 40 pounds of weight on them that I can't quite make that transition.
But that's still awesome. And you're just flopping around, just Dominic Hasek out there, just being the dominator out there.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah, but like what made you go play as a goalie? Like especially since it's your like main position that you want to be, like what made you be a goalie?
Yeah, I was forced into it. So, basically, what happened? The neighborhood that I lived in when I was a kid. We had two guys that lived in the neighborhood that played hockey, and ironically, they were both goalies. One of them was much older. I knew of him. I didn't know him. I was in middle school at the time, and I think he was in later high school. So I never met the guy. I just like knew through the grapevine that he was a goalie. The other one, we were roughly the same age. And so we would play in the driveway. Well, he was a goalie, so he didn't want to play goalie, right? So he'd force me to get in net, and didn't have any pads on. And so I had, basically like, I think I want to say that I had like maybe his goalie glove, or maybe I had a baseball glove. I don't recall, but I know I didn't have any shins on or any leg pads, and I was getting just butchered on my shins. And so my parents had decided they were going to buy me some goalie pads, and being from South Louisiana, they didn't know any better, so they went to like Academy Sports and got like a full kit of Franklin Street pads inside of a box. And so I had it's the foam with the hard plastic,
Yeah.
and so I was playing with that, and then I'll never forget my parents came home one day and said, "Hey, we signed you up to play in a hockey league," and I was pissed off. Um, I said, "I'm going to look stupid. What are you doing? All I've ever done is played in the driveway," and I was pretty angry. And they said, "Well, you're doing it, and you'll be fine." And so our first practice was in a Walmart parking lot. We showed up to the Walmart parking lot. I had my old, like, beat up plastic pads, and there was another goalie that was there, and he had, I never forget, black and red Bryans and leather Bryans, and those were his quote unquote old pads. And I looked at him and I thought, man, this kid's a professional. And so we were playing out there. We both kind of shared it a little bit. And then ended up, he decided he didn't really want to play net anymore. So I ended up taking over playing goalie that whole season. And the very first game I go out there, I've got my plastic pads on, and first shot on goal they score on me. And my dad's on the bench because they had asked him to be an assistant coach, which is hysterical because he had nothing, didn't know anything about hockey. But he's sitting on the bench and he looks at the head coach and says, "All right, he got it out of his system. He'll be fine." And 21 shots later, we win 4-1. I had one goal against on 22 shots, and my dad went out that next week and bought me Louisville TPS pads, had them shipped in from Canada, so that he's like, my son's gonna look professional. He's gonna look good. So a few weeks later, I had leather pads and everything. But the big advantage I had is the kids that we were playing against back then, they could get the puck off the ground, and I had done martial arts as a kid, and so I could do a full frontal split. And so I would just drop down in a full split basically and stop like 90% of the shots. So had a little bit of an advantage there. And the parents were complaining in the crowd, like, who is this kid? He can't do splits. That's not fair. So it was a good first experience for sure.
Whatever stops the puck, that's what you got to do.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could still do a full frontal split. That's been some years now.
Yeah, but at least you had it in the bag, and now you're playing at a higher level too, and you're still kicking it too. So that's all that matters.
Yeah, I think for me, I always have those moments where I'll say, well, maybe it's not, I don't have it anymore, but I played in this A level ice tournament every year called Boom Boom Cup in Nashville. And we've won the last like 2 or 3 years in our division. So, I think it gives that every year I go and it gives me the confidence to go, okay, well, I still got something in me.
I can
And
still do
we
it.
just, yeah, we just won the a Memorial Day tournament in Houston when I was playing in that. And yeah, so I think, I feel confident. I think right now, at a certain point, I'm not going to be able to play at a high level anymore. And I think, that's the whole like still kind of holding on to the dream a little bit. Not necessarily I want to go anywhere with it. I work, I'm in the biotech industry. So, I've got obviously like a day job, and I'm very blessed to be able to work remote full time. So don't have to worry about the travel. I can work from anywhere, and just want to kind of play at a high level. I think it's not only good for me for, just from the athleticism standpoint, and being able to do something I love, but it's great for the kids in our program as well. So, the kids see me playing and they think, oh wow, like our coach is actually doing something, and they're proud of that. I had last season, I had our little, we have an 8-year-old goalie, and she's a dynamo, and she put Kalkaska Battler stickers on her helmet, and every time she would make a save, she's doing it for the Battlers, thinking probably should be doing it for our team. Like, we're not the Battlers, but yeah, I get what you're going with. So I think the kids really enjoy it. As well, and kind of following me and asking me like, where am I going, or what am I doing, or what's
Yeah.
going on. And so I think it gives them, some excitement as well. So it's kind of good for both parties.
Yeah, it gives everyone something to look forward to. Like if coach can do it, I can do it too.
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but like you said, you played in the Israel Elite Hockey League a couple years ago. So like, what was your experience like in the IEHL over there?
Yeah, I was pretty shocked. I mean, I knew someone, I had gotten invited by someone that I knew. He's a captain out there, Chris Blake, and he plays locally in Dallas for the Mansfield Barracudas in the Mountain West Hockey League. And so he had said, "Hey, maybe you should come out." So, that might as well. I think um, for me, it was kind of a dawning. It was a perfect timing, I think. My eldest son went through brain cancer, and following his treatment, we relocated to East Texas, and that was kind of that same time frame. We were right about to move, so I got back actually from Israel, and we closed on our house like the next week. So it was right before we relocated out here that I went over there, and I think it was one of those. Well, I'm not getting any younger. If life is fragile. My son's doing great. He's 10 now. He actually turned 10 on Sunday, so he just had his
Happy
10th birthday. He
belated
was
birthday to him.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. Yeah. So he was diagnosed at age 5, and he's 10 now. So he's doing quite well. But it kind of made me think, it's time to, maybe do something. It's a good time. It's a summer league. So it's great because it's not such a large commitment. I was asked to go play overseas this season, but I'm not really keen on being gone from, essentially October to March. That's a long time to be away from my kids and my wife. And so opted to stay, stateside again this year. But anyway, the Israeli league is great. I think Tal is doing a really great job of growing the league. This year, I think they had maybe 8 teams, something like that in the league. I was asked to go this year and was going to go, but it was just too much travel with inline, so it wouldn't have been a good fit. But but it was a lot of fun. I think not only is it, you know, of course you're playing hockey out there and you're playing against some KHL guys, some really high level. They had a couple. They had one guy that played in the Olympics for Team China that was playing when I was there. So you do get to play against some really super high level talent, probably closer to like the Coast League, I would say, as far as like talent level. Some AHL type quality guys out there as well. But so it's really fast, good game. They televise it nationally, so you get a pretty decent crowd out there watching the games and everything. Really great ice, good guys. They bring obviously people in from other parts of the world, so it's a fun skate. I think it's growing and getting more recognition. I think at first it was looked at as like a glorified beer league, but people are understanding that there's some significant talent that's playing in there, and they play other places during the regular season. And it's a summer league, so it allows them to be able to stay in shape and play in another area against good players, and use as like a recruiting tool as well, where other people can see, oh look, he's playing over there. So I had a really good time. I definitely look forward to going back. I'll probably skate out next time. I played both. I skated out a little bit, but I played net mainly when I was there. But it was it was just a really good experience. I think the environment is not only of just let's play hockey with different teams, kind of how it's disjointed in leagues in the States, but everyone kind of comes together and they all know each other and they go on excursions together. So like they had an excursion to the Jerusalem, they had an excursion to the Dead Sea, and so I think that the camaraderie you're growing is not just within your team, but within the league as a whole. So definitely a great experience and highly recommend it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I also noticed that they do like different games in the States too, with in New York City and Chicago and Colorado. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
cool to see
yeah, that's
that.
a new thing. Yeah, it's a new thing they started. They did that one in New York just
Yeah.
recently, and that was like really really big. They had a huge attendance there. I think they're trying to get the word out a bit more about the league. Hopefully, I had talked to Tal. I think I'll be hopefully seeing some game time within the states this year. I got onto the New York thing too late. I wasn't able to make it on the roster, but hopefully, they did one in Vegas. I think before that they've done it in Michigan. I've kind of tried to help coordinate some additional games with people I know. They have a good organization for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like what did you learn about your game through going to that summer league in Israel and just playing?
Yeah, I think you know, I think it's more of less about, me as a player and more as a member of a community. I don't know if you're the stereotypical goalie or not, but I definitely am, where I kind of stick to myself. I'm not really social within the team. I generally am the kind of the one that stays in the corner. I get dressed, I go out when I play. When I'm done playing, I get undressed and I go, okay, bye guys, and I leave. Not one to socialize. I'm not much of a goer outer, nor have I ever been. So like the after game stuff has never been my thing. And it's easy to be disjointed from a team when you're by yourself out in the net, right? So I kind of grew up that way. I've always been kind of a loner. And I think, again, with like the Israel league, you're kind of more thrust into socialization, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, especially, you guys are kind of by yourselves out there, so
Yeah.
you grow that bond. Um, it's you're going all through the same experience at the same time, regardless of what team you're on. So there's a lot of hanging out outside of the rink, and so that gave me more confidence, I think, to have those types of conversations beyond beyond the bench. So I know, like with Thousand Island, for instance, we went to this camp, and generally I'm not one to kind of stay after, but I stay in the locker room and kind of chat with some of the guys. And I think growing that rapport, it helps just with like the team bonding overall. I think I discounted that a lot as a goalie, and thinking, well, I don't really need to know my teammates. I don't really need to know, you know, them on a personal level. I'm just playing hockey with these guys. But I think having that team camaraderie, even if you are a goalie, is important. That way you guys can trust each other. If they say, "Hey, I got it," I have a hard time letting go of the puck, and playing the puck. I'm definitely more of a cover goalie and not much of a player. I'm definitely not a Martin Brodeur. So I'm much more of a cover the puck at all costs, don't trust my mom type of thing. But yeah, learning to be able to trust other players in your team and release it, I think is good for all parties.
Yeah, especially when your team has trust and confidence in you, like they're gonna block shots for you. They're gonna be even willing to do even more than they would if you weren't like close with them.
Sure. No, completely agree. And that was a lesson I wish I would have learned 20 years ago, but learning it sooner than later would be ideal. But it's something that I can spread on to the rest of my team, right? I think here in our little inline program, we're trying to do more excursions and doing stuff outside of the rink where the kids can bond and really become more of a team outside of just like practices. So, like we've gone to an arcade recently and hung out with the kids. They went to the lake and went swimming as a group one, recently. And I think just having those outside of the rink activities really helps with that bonding. We've got a swimming pool here, so we have pool parties at our house. Which it's memories that not only my kids are going to have, but the rest of the program's going to have, and I think they're building that relationships.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. But like also like throughout your time in Israel, like you obviously come back to the States where you've been and you played in the APHL with Kalkaska last year with the Battlers and now like maybe with the Thousand Island Raiders as well. So like what has been your time in the APHL like?
Yeah, I think it's been short lived so far. I think just trying to kind of getting my feet wet at this point. I was really impressed with the speed of the game. I think it's definitely a league in which I want to continue to play in. I play in something similar to it down south in Louisiana. They have something called the Bayou Battle League
Yeah.
that I play in out of Lafayette. There's 4 or 5 teams there, and I've played for the Louisiana Voodoo for a couple seasons now, and it's fun. It's like you're able to have. I think with beer league, there's no, you don't have that full check aspect. And I think it kind of changes the game. And you have a lot of people kind of dipsy doodling or sliding along the boards when you can't really pinch them off, or you feel like you're gonna get a penalty for it. So I think it's a different dynamic and a lot more chirping because they know that they're not going to get punched in the face if they say something inappropriate. So I like the dynamic of like the full check and everything. The fighting I think is something that's important within the game. I know there's some controversy in that now, but I think it's an important part of the game because you know, as PK Subban said it perfectly in an interview, is we have a game that's super passionate, and you have to go out there and play with passion every single game and intensity, and so that's going to boil over, and the only way to kind of fix that is to let it boil over. Then we start from scratch, right? Like you refresh. You don't have the issues that with like grudges being held generally, right? Like you fight it out, you get it over with, go to your box, get out, and you don't see the same guys fighting 5 and 6 times a game, right? Like you get it out and you move on, and I think it keeps everyone honest within the organization too, right? Like in the game, and so the AP is something that I've enjoyed playing in. Otherwise, I wouldn't be flying from Texas, up north. That's a big commitment for in time and obviously like financial, right? Like it's a big commitment, but I'm enjoying it. Looking forward to getting between the pipes. I think that was something that last season for Kalkaska, I would, between lines, I would be sitting on the bench going, man, I wish I was in net right now. That'd be a blast. And so getting the opportunity to play net for Thousand Islands going to be pretty exciting. So looking forward to a strong season for sure.
Yeah.
A strong inaugural season at that too.
Uh,
So I was with the last season of Kalkaska. Kalkaska is now no longer. They've moved over to Gaylord now. So they're no longer in Kalkaska. So I was in the last season of Kalkaska, and I'll be in the first season of Thousand Islands. So it's kind of like definitely a Phoenix new beginning type of thing, even though with a different organization. So.
that's awesome that you're excited to get going again and play net this year. So that'll be cool to see. And like like what was it like playing? What do you think's the biggest difference, obviously, between the two positions of just being a player in that league and then now being a goalie in that league?
Man, hopefully I'll get hurt a lot less. Um, I'm definitely like the shot blocker that you had mentioned kind of earlier. I think just as a goalie, it's inherent in you. Like
Yeah.
you're just gonna stand in front of shots. And I caught one really good in the foot at Kalkaska, so that I was battling that for a while. Kind of having to wear a brace. It was right in my ankle. So, and I have like these Kevlar pads on the outside of my skates too. And of course, it hit me like right above that pad. So had to wrap my ankle. Of course, my wife saying, "You're crazy. I can't believe you're stepping in front of shots." But taking shots as a goalie is a lot easier than taking shots as a player. I don't have a lot more pads on. And I think feeling like you're able to contribute a lot more, right? I think, yeah, of course, like I had a few assists in the games I played, and um, I was able to block quite a few shots. That's kind of my specialty. But I've always felt like much of a larger contributor as a goalie, right? And I think you're out there the whole time, and there's a lot of weight on your shoulders, but I genuinely enjoy it, and people don't know why. And I think I'm sure you get the same question: is like, why would you want to stand in front of a puck flying at your face? And I'm honest with people and I say I don't know, because it does defy logic that I would want to stand in front and get puck shot at me. But I think it's the satisfaction when someone thinks they've got one on you and then you take it away last minute. I think especially with the style that I play, there's lots of open net opportunities that are thwarted based on the way that I play. So yeah, so like recently I was playing in a beer league game. We went to shootout, so it was real confidence building. I had 38 shots, 2 goals against. The 2 goals were pretty sketchy. I had one off the blocker and thought I had it trapped. Didn't hear a whistle. No one screamed at me or anything, and then ends up it popped straight in the air, and then someone got the rebound. But I had asked the bench. I was like, why didn't anyone scream at me that it was like loose or anything? They're like, we had lost sight. We thought you had it too. So kind of a fluky bounce. And then second was kind of similar, another rebound that kind of popped out to somebody and no one knew where it was. And they ended up finding the back of the net. But ended up tying 2-2 after 38 shots, went to a shootout. And the very first shot, guy comes over. I committed, then did the whole back roll, or as my mom used to call it when I was a kid, the alligator roll. And he shoots it. I got a blocker on it, no stick, blocker, and then off the bar and out. So
There you go.
looked pretty good. My wife actually got it on camera, which is crazy. She would happen to be there. One of the probably 8 games she's attended in the last 11 years we've been together. But she taped the shootout, so got the save on camera, and then put it on our youth hockey program social media, comparing me to Dominik Hasek and saying, if you ask coach who he plays like, he's going to say Dominik Hasek. And then a side by side comparison video of my rolling save and one of his rolling saves. So it looked pretty similar. So it was good. Nice confidence booster. But I think, I still got it in me a little bit. We'll see how the season goes. Hopefully I'll be with the Raiders for a couple years to come at least, and hopefully we see some success this season.
Yeah, little Dominator-esque. Can't complain about that.
There you go.
Yeah, but how excited are you to get going back in the net, especially this year?
Yeah, no, like I think it's exciting, but it's a little nerve wracking. I think I had went out for this little tiny, like kind of like semi-pro type team that they were going to do down in Dallas at one point. And so I met with the GM, and first thing he says, I'm in the locker room getting dressed, and he walks in, he looks at me, he says, you need to lose some weight. And so it's like, fair enough. Go out there and, did my barrel rolls and my kicking them out the air type of stuff. And I made this one save. I do a 2-pad slide and end up gloving it. I'm on my back holding the puck in my glove, and he skates and he looks up above me and he says, maybe you don't need to lose weight. You look pretty good out here. And I still agree with him. I need to lose weight. And I'm in the same boat now, right? I think I could afford to shed a few pounds. Obviously, most goalies are tall and thin, and I'm, decently tall. I'm 6'1", so decently tall, but I would never be characterized as thin any longer. So I've got some work to do. I think I'm on skates like 20 hours a week, but my big issue is not the working out side of things. It's the amount of calorie consumption that I do. So gonna have to put the sweets away for a minute and try to get back in fighting shape. So it'll be a challenge, but I'm up for it. So
Yeah, it'll be a fun year though, especially to get back in the net. Like obviously you've done it once or twice before, so I'm sure it'll come back right away.
yeah, I guess, golly, I'm getting old, but yeah, like 30 years of goaltending experience, right? So I play at our little rink that we have. I let the adults sling pucks at me once in a while. I put on a glove and I don't wear any pads. And I'll have them, stand like what I would be considered, I guess, like top of the circles type of thing. But ripping slap shots at me and stuff, they think I'm crazy. But from that distance, I mean, hopefully you can track a puck from
Yeah.
top of the circles, but it keeps you awake, right? Like you don't want to catch one in the face, so you're making sure your gloves working really well. Don't want to catch one in the shin or the stomach. So it helps me hone the glove for sure. So getting some practice that way at least.
Yeah, that's huge. But going back to the inline program a little bit here, I know you're doing donations and like a silent auction in September here. So coming up. So like
Yeah.
talk about that and like what that's about and like what your plan for it is.
Yeah, so we are the cool thing about our program is I really want to treat this like we're a professional organization in a top tier city and we're treating the kids as such. So last year was our first year. We did tryouts for our elite team. It was in November. And I said, look, every year we're going to do this. So we do tryouts in November. The qualifications are basically can you compete at a statewide level? We're not looking for like nationally competitive kids. We have a couple, I think, two to four kids that are probably nationally competitive. So we do have some really, really strong kids, but for the most part, our elite team is made up of kids that would be able to compete on a statewide level. We just went to a tournament with our elite team, our very first ever full team tournament. We do a lot of Ironman tournaments like 4-on-4 and stuff because we don't have a lot of kids.
Yeah.
But we went to our first full team tournament. We brought a 10 and under team to Houston for an Echo national qualifying tournament. And we had half our team was 8 and under and half our team was 10 and under. And even though we were, kind of disadvantaged in that way, we went undefeated in the round robin, ended up losing a heated contest in the final, so we came in second. So our very first tournament out of town for a full team, we brought home the silver, so brought some hardware home, so that was exciting. We've had kids that of course traveled nationally and won some medals and stuff for national teams, but never like under our own umbrella. So what we did last year, all the kids that made the team, which I think we had 13 that made the team, that's from ages 5 all the way to 18. So 13 kids total. So like obviously we don't have full teams. But of those 13 kids, they all got helmets with like, a branded sticker on it. They got custom made gloves. They got 2 jerseys and pants, and they got a custom bag as well. So we want to make sure they feel special and they get all this gear. The captains got like a little warm up jacket, and then all the players got hats. We did a little like announcement and everything, and live streamed it on Facebook, and it was kind of like a little press conference. So we have our little tablecloth and our banner backdrop, and they came and they signed their contract, and we had 2 photographers there taking pictures, so you can see you can hear the cameras and see the flashes on the Facebook Live. So it was really cool experience for the kids. They were excited about that. So looking to do the same thing this year, and so the fundraiser is really meant for the purchasing of the bags and the helmets and all of that stuff for the kids that make the team. So we're hoping to raise some funds to be able to do that. If we have excess funds, we're looking to put those aside for trying to revamp some of our gear. We have a lot of gloves that have holes in them, so we need to kind of just get some revamping of the gear that we have there. But we're doing a large event September 20th out here in East Texas. So what that looks like, we're doing a gun raffle. We're in Texas, so we have to do a gun raffle. So we're doing a gun raffle. We're doing a silent auction that we're actually going to put online. So we haven't done that yet, but it's going to be live to everyone. And it got some really cool hockey stuff because, of course, I'm pretty decently connected in the hockey community. So we've got a goalie mask wrap as part of the silent auction. We've got a custom paint job, a $400 credit toward a custom paint job for Tony Jarrett from Mass Expressions. He does like NHL goalie masks and stuff. So he donated a $400 credit towards a goalie mask paint job. So it's pretty sick. And then we've got some player gear, and I think we're going to get Ringsters, one of our sponsors. I think they're going to donate some wheels and stuff. So we've got some hockey stuff in there. We've got I also used to play professional pool. Fun fact, I was a professional billiard player. So I've got sponsored by McDermott Q. They donated a $675 cue that we're gonna put in the silent auction as well. So kind of bringing in a bunch of different things, not just hockey stuff, but things from around the community that I think people will get excited about, as well as some more international stuff like the goalie mask stuff like that. I think hopefully we can get some good bids going from GGSU and the rest of the community out there.
Yeah, that's sick, and like it's such a big thing for the community too, and just have all these different things come about, and you're growing something bigger too. That's awesome to see and hear about what you guys are doing over in Texas there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think the event should be great. Like I said, we'll have the gun raffle and silent auction, but we're bringing people in. We've got 40 vendors right now coming, so they're
Wow.
selling different things, and we're making them all different. So we have such a huge variety that are coming out to the event, and then we'll have a classic car show as well, kids games. So hopefully it's a really really big event. It's successful, so that way we can do this annually. So this is our first time, giving it a shot. So we'll see how it goes. I'm sure there's gonna be plenty of hiccups, but hopefully it'll be a lot of fun and people want to come back. We've got food trucks coming, and it should be a pretty large shindig. So hopefully raise some good money for the kids, and we're doing hockey demos there. We've got like meet and greets with the captains. We're doing like glove. We have the custom gloves. We have some extra pairs. We're gonna have them sign some gloves, and we'll auction off some of their signed gloves. You never know. Maybe it's the next Ovi, right? Like, so you never know. Get a hold of the kids' gloves. You can save them for a couple decades, and maybe they'll be worth something someday. You never know.
Save them for a couple years until you never know where they could be after
You
that.
never know.
Yeah, but that's huge, and that's awesome, and just but especially if it is as big as you're saying, like doing it annually, like that'd be super cool to do it annually and just get everything going. Like it's gonna continue to build everything even more and more every single year.
For sure. That's the goal. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think that's a great place to wrap this episode up. So Justin, thank you again for coming on the show. I appreciate your time, and I want to wish you the best of luck with everything you have going forward.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It was a good time. Maybe we'll do it again sometime.